afternoon, everyone. I am Ravi Gupta. I am editor-in-chief of Digital Learning Magazine. This is India's and Asia's first magazine on ICT in education, and also it focuses on innovation in education. I'm also the CEO of an organization called Elets Techno Media Private Limited, which focuses on innovations and ideas. And we are going to have then very interesting panel discussion right now. The topic is developing effective learning outside classroom during COVID-19. Now, with the emerging COVID-19 situation, there is a lot of uncertainty around when are the educational institutions going to open and how will the students study in the period when these institutions are closed. So for this discussion, we have eminent panel here, and our keynote speaker of the day is Dr. Shuchi Sharma, who is an IAS officer and Secretary, Higher and Technical Education, Government of Rajasthan. Welcome, Dr. Shuchi Sharma. Namaskar. And we have Dr. H.D. Charan. He is the Vice Chancellor of Bikaner Technical University. Welcome, Dr. Charan.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. We have Dr. R. Ram Avatar Gupta, who is the Vice Chancellor of Rajasthan Technical University. Welcome, Dr. Gupta ji. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have our industry expert, Raghav Gupta, with us, who is Managing Director of India and APAC for Coursera. Welcome, Raghav ji.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Namaskar.
Thank you. So, before I start the questions in the panel, I will request each of the speakers to briefly introduce about their organizations so that the audience gets a context of the our panelists and the discussions we are going to have. So I will first request Dr. Shuchi Sharma to speak about the vision of the Higher Technical Education Department briefly. Yeah.
Namaskar, I am Shuchi Sharma, IAS, holding the charge of Secretary, Higher and Technical Education Department in Rajasthan. This is a coincidence that now we are, the whole country, the whole world is undergoing this COVID crisis, and things have really changed 360 degrees. And the way we look at the things will have to be, will have to be adjusted accordingly to adjust to the new demands of the situation. But when I joined here, I was already holding a view that we should go for e-learning. More and more e-learning should be there. And as you all know, there is the government finances with the government is always limited, and it's very difficult to manage so much for this, because we are more into building the schools, building the colleges, and putting the labs and arranging the equipments for it, and then free shifts for all the students, and there are so many welfare activities the government has to do. So with all these limitations, keeping in my mind the limitations we really have, how to cope up with that. And then, of course, the other very important thing is the dearth of the faculty. We have to recruit the teachers, we have the vacant positions for them, but there are so many formalities and there are so many problems in recruiting that. There are so many court cases, sometimes there are so many stays, and problem of finance is also there. And besides, government has to also face so many kind of complaints, so many queries under RTI, and there are a lot of problems too in recruitments also. So how to cope up with that? Because you just cannot arrange the faculty as and when you want. Then we what we think is always we will be going for some guest faculty, some faculty on contract or like that. But ultimately it affects the quality of education. It affects the goodwill of the institution, and the students suffer. I was worried, and in fact, I was worried, and I wanted to have some solution for that. So I had put an emphasis on e-learning. E-lecture should be there. Then how to arrange it? Because we should have some separate platform for that. And to arrange platform for e-learning is not that easy, and it also is going to take time. So just I wanted to, because I wanted to give the students of the state the immediate solution that they should not suffer. Then I thought about why not every lecturer should go for recording their lectures. And the easily available platform is YouTube. Why not they should upload their lectures on that? At least in a month, if you have 1,000 number of faculty, then if every lecturer record even one lecture in a month, then we will be having 1,000 lectures in a month. Similarly, in college education, in general education also, we have 4,000 working faculty. They can also do the same thing, and we will be having a great collection of the e-content that way. And I believe that the quality of the lectures will also be much better than what they do, what they generally do in the class. Because we never know, because there is no control over over how are the teachers teaching in the class. Sometimes they take or sometimes they don't take, because there are so many complaints from students also. There are good faculty, there are average faculty, both kind of faculty is there. So this idea of e-lecture, in fact, I could think of many benefits from these e-lectures. And I gave them this task of recording the lecture, but there was, of course, a lot of resistance from them. But this time, the COVID crisis gave me the opportunity. In fact, a threat has been converted into opportunity. While working from home directions, I gave the direction that while working, because they have to teach in the classroom, so they should think that they are teaching in the from home. So they got their lectures recorded, one lecture per day. And now we have a huge collection of, both the VCs are sitting here. They also know that. We have in technical education, we have a collection of almost 20,000 lectures, 15,000+ for polytechnics and for engineering colleges as well. So I think this is my view about the e-learning or e-lecture or something which is being done outside classroom. And because now we have the collection of the e-content now, the students in general did not suffer during this COVID vacations, COVID break, which was compulsorily had to be there.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Shuchi Sharma. Your initiative about this e-learning and online learning is a great initiative, and I think it is inspiring several other departments and several other states also to look at this option. So I have heard from few other states that they are looking at replicating your model. So hats off to you for taking this initiative. May I request
to my team, in fact.
Yes. And may I request Dr. Ram Avatar Gupta, who is the Vice Chancellor, Rajasthan Technical University, to talk about what is the size of your university, how many colleges, how many students study here. Yeah.
Namaskar. I am Professor R.A. Gupta. I am Vice Chancellor, Rajasthan Technical University, Kota. I joined here in the month of July. I will take 2 minutes. Just I am coming back.
Please. These are the challenges. These are the challenges of working from home, right? So let me request Dr. H.T. Charan.
I'm sorry, मैं आ गया वापस.
अच्छा अच्छा, आप आ गए।
वो मेरी ग्रैंड डॉटर जो है ना वो निकल के आ गई यहाँ पे और उसने
ठीक है, इट्स ओके, नो
पकड़ लिया उसने
वरीज।
मुझे। I'm sorry for disturbance. So I joined in the month of July only, and earlier I was professor in Malviya Engineering National Institute of Technology, MNIT Jaipur, and my area is electrical engineering, especially power electronics, and I supervised around 20 PhD candidates. So I have research experience also, a lot of, and I have published around 300 publications in my area. I did my PhD from IIT Roorkee, and so many things. And I have worked in a lot of positions in MNIT as a warden, as a head, as a dean, as a TechUp coordinator even, uh, uh, so many things. So in all, I have a lot of experience in each and every aspect. So I joined basically RTU, and I found that there are a lot of work is to be done in RTU, and we were doing good. Faculty is very good, and just they need little basically orientation. E-learning is very important, and for technical university is not difficult even, because my faculty is very good in this e-learning aspects. But due to this COVID-19, suddenly we have to basically this what Madam conveyed, just this threat basically becomes opportunity out to us. So first of all, we asked our faculty to prepare class notes. Earlier also they were doing, and the faculty was doing good research work also. And now every faculty we are asking to basically prepare lecture notes, upload on YouTube, and then they are connecting with basically Google Classrooms even with the students. Recently, even in the Bikaner Technical University in us conducted one open second midterm test, and more than 99% students are available, and they are doing well. Then next point in the in the final year, what we thought that because there is a one component seminar, so we ask our faculty members, because we don't know how much time this pandemic session will take to open. So we ask them to connect with the students and prepare their seminars at their home, submit the assignment on YouTube or on WhatsApp or mail. They will check, send back, and this way we will complete the seminar work. Project also, we thought that project the theoretical work they will do at home, and if some implementation hardware, we will give little time, 7 or 10 days after opening this situation. So we are doing that also. Regarding laboratory component, we asked our faculty members to upload all the lab manuals, lab practicals on YouTube. A student will go through that manuals, and the internal component, theoretical component, and question answer session, they will complete on this e-learning session, YouTube and all. The rest component, that only experimental work, external examination, we will call, when after opening the situation, they will do at the classroom. So a lot of work we are doing, and we are compensating by this e-learning. And what you said actually about so many subjects on first, second, third, fourth semester, we are thinking we can basically take all these subjects as a open elective or department elective. My student can opt this, and they can study from your this contents. So this way we can basically go by this learning, and this wonderful learning. Definitely faculty, what Madam conveyed, the faculty difficulty is there. So what we are thinking that we will search 2 or 3 good faculties out of the, actually we have 66 engineering colleges affiliated to us, and 96 including MCA and MBA. So out of these colleges, we are finding 3-4 good faculties from each subject, and we are asking them, and we are asking the good lectures they will upload, and the rest of the faculty can go through it. and we are assigning to another faculty to check that from the same subject that the contents are good or we have to improve that. So we are ensuring it also. In that way we are doing, and I'm sure that we will do good. And thank you very much for you that you are giving this opportunity to us to go to all this learning and all this content. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramavtarji. Great initiatives you are anyway taking on the e-learning area and using the online systems. May I request Dr. H.T. Charan from Bikaner Technical University to speak about your university. Yeah, briefly, sir.
Thank you. I'm Professor Charan of Vice Chancellor Bikaner Technical University. In Rajasthan, there are 2 technical universities which takes care of all technical colleges governed by ICT. One is RT Kota, where Professor R. Gupta is the Vice Chancellor. Another is Bikaner Technical University, having headquarters at Bikaner. So under jurisdiction of the Bikaner Technical University, there are 42 colleges, and it has started recently. It's only 2 years back, and 2018. As far this online concept is concerned, Madam has rightly told that it has become a opportunity out of threat, and rather I would say कि ऑनलाइन के लिए ये वरदान साबित हुआ है कोरोना. Earlier, people, very senior people like me, they was very much afraid of this kind of technology, online technology, and by heart were not able to communicate to the younger generation. That's how much important this is. I'll give you the one example, real example, how we learned this during this system. Every day we have a one or another program. We have been running a program called Universal Human Values in our university. And I'm very much impressed by the way our secretary, Madam Suchi Madam, has taken up this task to connect the education with a social concern. And she has introduced a concept called a joy of giving, to give someone. And that's called Anandam. So that I feel that's something different. The Rajasthan education, higher education technology has introduced to each and every student. So I was very much impressed about that. And my university had been doing beyond that. So we had a compulsory subject of called Universal Human Value. After introducing the subject, we find that it's not easy to teach until unless a teacher is familiar with the subjects. So teacher need to go for certain training. Therefore, we were looking for training. Now, during this system, we had conducted a 1 week workshop every day from 10 to 2, 4 hours. And that was very much successful. I never thought that online workshop can be connected the way we are talking. Online workshop can be connected. And after having impressed by this experiment, we talked to AICTE, and AICTE had conducted a similar workshop for their own officers. Right from the chairman AICTE, Anil Sastravode, Vice Chancellor Mr. Konia, Member Secretary Rajiv, ROs, and all those. They have present throughout 5 days from 10 to 8. And out of the success of that workshop, I'm telling how this became a success, online success. Success of this workshop by AICTE. Then they thought to have a workshop on the Vice Chancellor of Technical Universities. So they conducted another 5 days workshop for all the Vice Chancellor and Dean Director of Technical University, 200 people. Where Professor R. Gupta and I was also there. I was panelist all along this. So that was successful.
Requesting you to just be brief here. अभी हमारे questions आने वाले हैं. तो अभी.
Sure, sir. So one thing I wanted to tell, this has become a very much, I'm telling you, vardhan for the online education.
Technical education.
ठीक है.
As far work is concerned, because technical education, there's a lot of materials available. You know very well. Lot of material already available is free is available, on paid is available. And at my university is concerned, thanks to the TechU program, Technical Education Program of the Government of India, they have provided a large number of digital board. And through digital board, whatever teacher is teaching, that is being recorded. So we already had a recorded lectures. So we provided them to the student. Similarly, I don't want to repeat what Professor Gupta has told. So we have also at the same time recorded large number of the lectures and supplied to the student. Similarly, conducted a test through Google. And not only teachers, the students are also very happy. I have talked to large number of students. Earlier they were hesitant. Large number of queries are coming whether we will be able to do it or not. And I am also very much not sure that whether each and every student being there in the village will have this connectivity or not. So finally, I ensure my student through this type of conference that if any student is left behind, I'll conduct an online test, offline test also. But finally, when I see the attendance of students, almost more than 95% students were present, and they were very happy. Even those teachers who were very much resistant that we will not be able to conduct this, they are also happy. So this opportunity of online material and to the teaching has become very much useful. Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Now, may I request Raghav Gupta to please talk about yourself and your organization, please.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Good afternoon, everyone. I see we have close to 250 people who joined from around the country, and it's pretty amazing to be on a webinar because, you know, a webinar allows us to get together from all over the country, even though we are on lockdown. My name is Raghav Gupta. I'm the Managing Director of Coursera. I'm based in Gurgaon. I'll take just a quick minute to tell you about Coursera. Many people may know already, but I want to tell a little bit more about what Coursera is doing, given that colleges and universities are shut around the country. Many people on the webinar may know this. Coursera is the world's largest online education platform for higher education. There are close to 55 million individuals who are on our platform. And the content on the Coursera platform comes from 170 of the world's top universities and 30 leading technology companies. These universities include names like Michigan, Duke, Princeton, Georgia Tech, and Indian School of Business in India, as well as IIM Calcutta in India. We've, of course, like everybody else, been monitoring how, you know, the coronavirus situation has been impacting higher education. And as the country goes through the period of lockdown, the big focus has, of course, been on controlling the infection and thereafter getting livelihoods back into people's hands, especially those who are more affected by the lockdown. But all of us who are on this webinar also understand that the impact on higher education is very, very significant. You know, across the country, almost 37 million students, or about 3.7 crore students, are right now at home, and they are across 1,000 universities and close to 50,000 colleges. And Coursera wants to be able to help in such a difficult time. So what we did on the 12th of March last month is we made our platform, which we call Coursera for Campus, available for free for all colleges and all universities around the world till the end of July. There are close to 3,800 courses and 400 specializations from the world's top universities. A university needs to come to our website, coursera.org/coronavirus, fill up a form, and we will make the website, the Coursera platform live for that university within 2 to 3 days' time. So far, around the world, we have received almost 30,000 requests from colleges and universities to make this program available for them. And in India, I'm happy to share that we've launched this program for about 1,500 colleges and universities. And I do want to emphasize that this is at no charge till the end of July. And so far, about 4.15 lakh students have started learning on the Coursera platform. I do want to say, many of you know Coursera as a high quality source for online learning, but the Coursera for Campus platform is built to be used by colleges and universities. It is not just any platform. So a faculty member can actually come in and select from our catalog of 3,800 courses, what are those courses which are relevant for their students, and can prescribe those courses to their students. they can also select those courses which are quite aligned with the curriculum of the university, of AICTE, of the college. The faculty member can monitor how the students are progressing, what part of the courses have they covered, what part have they not covered, how are they performing on the assessments online. And many colleges and universities are also giving out credits when students complete Coursera courses. And when students complete Coursera courses, they get a certificate from whichever top university has created that course. So if I come to Coursera as a part of the free program and take a course in Python programming from University of Michigan, I will get also a certificate from the University of Michigan. And I would like to encourage everybody who's joined us today that while we are in the lockdown phase, especially, and this might be relevant even after the lockdown ends, please do come and make use of what we have made available. We want to be able to be of assistance at this time.
Great. Thanks, Raghav. Thanks for joining in, and thanks to thank you, eminent panel, for joining us here. The first question which I want to ask the panel is that how the student learning process will be different outside classroom. The context is that the classes are closed right now, the colleges are closed, and the students are at home, and they are all wanting to learn. So how will the student learning process will be different outside classroom? So may I request each of the panelists to respond briefly. So I have a series of questions, so we can have brief answers. May I request Dr. Shuchi Sharma to respond first on this? Thank you.
Very aptly, it's a very apt question, and this crisis is an unprecedented crisis. So, in fact, everyone is going for hit and trial kind of method. It's for the first time that we are so much into this online thing. And once it happens, it happens in a system when something is emphasized in one direction, then everyone will be going in the same direction, and there will be a great number of online courses and overflow of everything. And I think it has started happening in this field also. And I was looking at the questions also. So many questions are there regarding the quality of the lectures and regarding the updation of the lectures. I would say that to ensure the quality of the lectures, in fact, when we are given time, and we will be ensuring, as Professor Dr. Ari Gupta already told, that he is trying to ensure the quality of the lectures also. But I would ask a simple question here. When the lectures are given in the classroom, are we sure about their quality? And who is ensuring the quality of those lectures? We expect so much things from if we introduce some new thing, there are a lot of expectations from that. There must be many shortcomings in that. There can be a problem of quality also, but still there are right efforts in right direction. This I would say. Quality, the other thing, as happens in a free market, the forces of demand and supply. The forces of demand decide the supply. Similarly, the viewership will decide the quality of the lectures also. Besides, we will be looking into there will be efforts in the university, in the colleges, to ensure the quality of the lectures. That is one thing. But when some lectures are open to all on YouTube, if they are uploaded on a platform which is open to the world, then every lecturer will be conscious about the quality also, and they will try to make themselves updated. They will try to make themselves more communicable. They will try to make themselves more so that it is more receptive towards the students. So this is one thing. Yes, there are other questions also. There are already platforms like NPTEL and all, and the students don't have Androids, and we are forcing them to have Androids. It's not that. It is not only, in fact, if some scheme has been formed by the government, if the government is pursuing something, it doesn't mean that it will always adhere to the ad hoc kinds of solution. When we were thinking about e-lectures, we were also thinking about the e-classrooms. In the college itself, when the colleges will open, there are already computer labs, there are already libraries where the computers are installed. The students will be given the facility to hear the lecture, listen to the lectures in those rooms, in the labs, whatever the college principals will decide about, the college administration will decide about that. But during this crisis period, if something has been arranged in such a short time, then I think it needs more appreciation instead of fault finding in it. And there is a problem that if there is, as you were saying about Google Classroom or some other kind of classroom teaching online, then student will have to take out that particular time slot and will sit in the classroom, and even the teacher will have to spare that time slot, and he will be bound, the student teacher will be bound with that time slot only. So that is a limitation of any online classroom. And it is, and similarly, if it is a physical classroom, then also the limitation of time is there. We should think in that manner. There can be problem of networking, there can be problem of internet. If there is some power cut during that time, what will happen to that? So I think if we have e-content available on some stable platform like YouTube or some other platform can be thought of, then the student can consult that platform anytime, whenever he has a facility of time or internet or anything, he will be doing that. He can. So if the new things are introduced, there can be teething troubles, but ultimately they are going to benefit. And it is, somebody was asking me, is it going to be the norm and the traditional type kind of teaching will be obsolete? No, I don't think so. Traditional kind of teaching is being boosted by the availability of e-content. It will be synergizing the already methods of teaching available right now. If the teacher in a physical classroom, there won't be any replacement of the teacher by the e-content. The teacher will have to be there, and teacher has much bigger responsibility than simply teaching on blackboard. It should be more a discussion kind of a thing. If the student comes prepared after seeing the lecture, after listening to the lecture on the YouTube or any other platform where it is available, the e-lecture, and when he comes to the classroom, he will be prepared for that. He will be having loads of questions in his mind. He will be asking the questions that will in fact encourage the inquisitiveness of the student, and that is going to contribute to the creative skills of the student. The classrooms will be turned into a discussion forums. So this is something great which is happening, which can, maybe it is happening due to some historical forces, due to some circumstantial forces, but whatever happening is, I think it is for the good of the society, and we will have to adjust to that, and we will have to move on.
Great. Dr. Sharma, thanks for your inputs. May I request Dr. Ram Avtar to please speak about this issue?
Thank you very much. I think the madam has conveyed very nicely what is happening actually in good institutes like NIT, IIT, and even RTU and other institutes. Basically, teacher discuss in the class. They give guidelines to the students to go through the content, and then students in the IIT or in the NITs and in good institutes, they basically learn a lot of things from the YouTube or library, and they prepared and they come to the class next day and they discuss about the problems. So this e-learning gives lot of basically exposure to the students. So giving the basically lecture in the class, it's very limited content we can give in the class. So if it is a discussion type of the things, then certainly the teacher will guide topic and basically the about the subject content, and then the student will go to library or go to e-content or at his residence, even in the hostel where he is, learn from the YouTube, learn from this e-learning. Second thing, the connectivity with the student and teacher will be very good. The student can connect anytime with the teacher and he can ask anytime about the doubts. So the connectivity is also better in that case. And teacher can also prepare beyond syllabus, because he has a lot of time now. So he can think beyond the syllabus. So this is basically good thing. By this e-learning, it gives a lot of and about the research even in the classroom, the teacher can give this problem. You design the problem, and the student go to this e-learning and YouTube and so many things, and he can design the things in better way, and then he can come to the college or in the class with a solution. So such type of things, it's very good for the learning of the students, that I can say.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ramodarji. May I request Dr. H.D. Charan to kindly speak?
Sure. Current situation is something different. Actually, there is no replacement of classroom teaching. Earlier also, we had been thinking of have a lecture through presentations. There also it was realized that blackboard teaching cannot replace anything, and that is true. Eye-to-eye contact and discussion at that. Then again, depends upon the quality of teaching, quality of person who is teaching, how he is dealing with the lecture. But current situation is different. So we cannot compare this current situation with the general situation where both the options are open. But this e-learning can be a cannot be a substitute to the general way of teaching. It can be the addition to that, and that can be very good addition, because everything may not be told in detail in the class, but then a student had a chance to go for a e-learning, e-lectures. And as far as technical education is concerned, there's large number of materials available. Free is available through MOOC, through SWAYAM, so many things are available. Now in our system, we have a different category of institutes. Say IIT is one category, NIT is another category. Then on a third category, we are coming. The place where we are coming, the student is not interested to study at all. Now to bring that student to e-learning is it itself is a big task. Now, of course, this through Corona is difficult. Always you learn a difficult situation. This also, we learn difficult situation. So student also are learning in a difficult situation because they are getting material from the e-system. And probably I think they'll come out with some sort of solution that whenever a situation arises, we'll have this open schedule. At the same time, this can be an added thing. This can be a value added material available so that interested student can go for it. Even otherwise, now teacher has to do something more. They have to encourage the student to go for it. I have instructed my teachers in each department that they collect a good videos, very good videos about the subject concerned. And once in a week, they'll ask the student to sit there and allow them to go for that video. So that way we have to have a campaign like to go for the e-learning. So a lot of things are available, but students need to be encouraged to go for it.
Excellent. May I request Raghav to respond on it, as your organization is one of the world's leading organizations in the online learning platform. So what changes you are seeing in the online, offline, and what are the opportunities in learning on online? Yeah, Raghav.
Absolutely. So, I have two children. My son has just completed class 12 and my daughter has just gone into class 10. She's attending lots and lots of Zoom classes these days. And I ask her, how's it going? And she's not enjoying it. She is finding it so cumbersome because these are long lectures of 1 hour each. and you might be able to attend a 1-hour class in a classroom where you have other people around you. To attend long lectures in on Zoom is just not easy. So I think for us to be able to say that shifting to some form of online learning, my view is that creating an online course is easy. Creating a high quality online course is not easy. And if these are just courses which are online versions of what faculty have been teaching in class, today we don't have a choice. And that is why students may be attending those. But there will be pushback from students to say, we will not accept this kind of quality. I think it is very true that all of us should appreciate the efforts of all the faculty members, all the colleges which are acting very, very fast and putting learning online, whether that be on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google, and trying to take online classes. But the reality is that they are doing it now. They are trying to learn on the fly as they are being forced to do this. There are universities around the world who have been doing this for the last 10 years. University of Michigan has 100 people in its online education department, instructional designers, researchers. Creating high quality online content is a different ballgame. And I think my view is that along with the band-aid approach almost that we are applying now, because there is no choice, colleges and universities need to start thinking about what will happen when campuses open, whenever that might be the case. And I know in India, we currently don't have specific guidance on when campuses will open, but already we are seeing in other parts of the world that universities and colleges are saying that they will not open for the rest of this year. And they are preparing for what will happen for the rest of the year, not just for the rest of the lockdown. And today, of course, 100% of the learning has been forced to shift online. But my view is that once campuses open as well, we will be in a world where maybe 70, maybe 80% of the teaching will move back to campus. But it is beneficial for academic leaders, for deans, for faculty members to think about a world where maybe 20 to 30% education will permanently stay online. I was told the AICT is also having a discussion about raising the 20% online education limit right now to possibly a 40% online education limit. I was on a conversation with a university in Malaysia yesterday, and in Malaysia, apparently the online component of education for credit, not for credit education, but for credit education, has been moved to closer to a 60%. And I think this view that in-class education can never be matched by online education does not hold water anymore. I think we have to come in with an open point of view to say, how do both provide the best experience to students? And in my view, for those colleges and universities who are preparing not just for the next 1 month or 2 months, but who are thinking about their medium-term strategy over the next 2-3 years, they need to think about an online learning ecosystem that needs to have 4 parts. The first part is real-time communication tools, Zoom, Facebook Live, Microsoft Teams, what have you, so that some amount of real-time communication can be done with students, between faculty. Second, they need online education platforms, whether it be Coursera or any other platform, where high-quality content has been prepared and is available to be consumed and is aligned with curriculum. The third kind of platform that is needed is a learning management system where some of this content can reside instead of putting it on hard to find platforms like YouTube, where it is difficult to find what you're looking for. And I see a lot of comments about how it is hard to find content on generic platforms. And fourth, you need an online assessment plus plagiarism control platform, because some amount of examinations will also have to move online. And it is not true that online education or online assessments cannot be as thorough as in-class assessments can be. I think this is a fantastic opportunity where higher education really, for those leaders in higher education who've been wanting to transform higher education, can use this opportunity almost. It is a pandemic, but it is an opportunity to also transform. And I think this is an opportunity to transform. And the right mindset does not need to be an online versus offline mindset. It needs to be an online and offline mindset. That's what I would highly recommend.
Great inputs, Raghav. Thanks for that. Next round of question is around how instructors can engage with students and develop skills that professional courses demand. Now the subject has 3 parts to it. that determining the skills that our students need to be successful. The second part is how we can help students to develop these skills and assess them. And third is leveraging tools and practices that are effective and sustainable for both classroom and outside the campus. So I will request each of the panelists to please respond on this. The main question is how instructors can engage with students and develop skills that professional courses demand. So requesting Dr. Sushil Sharma to please respond on this to start with.
We are already worried about it. In fact, this question ultimately is related to employability, professional skill, and how to go about it, because we generally find that means it is already obvious that the pass outs from our institutes are not as in general are not as fit for the employment as the employers demand, and somewhere we will have to work over that, working over the employability skill, the professional skill of the student, despite having the theoretical knowledge and whatever the courses are there. They are lacking in this. This is what the employers feel. And how to go about it? We are also worried about it, and we are trying to engage with the many firms. We are in discussion with many firms about it. That we are already doing something with some of the firms who are trying to find the employability skills of. They are judging, they are evaluating the skills of the students, how much employable they are, and in which field they are fit for. So one thing is this, and then they will be guiding for some courses to be done by them, and there are also some other firms which are saying that we will be training the your pass outs of the institutes, and according to demands of the employers, and they will be having the internships with the employers. They are having some list of the employers with them. They will be having some internships, and then they will have some short kind of employment. So these are the things we still haven't worked well into it, and we are trying, we are still searching. And if means I am always open to all good ideas, if there are through your platform or some other firms are there to teach, to make our students more employable, and with whatever the limited resources we have, it will be of great help to us.
Thank you. May I request Dr. Ram Avatar to kindly respond on this?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question actually. You know, there is no substitute of practical work in the laboratory. Nowadays, we have a lot of basically software, and we can simulate the problem on that software. I remember my practical when I was doing my PhD. You know, initially what we do, we simulate our problem on some software given to us. So MATLAB we have. MATLAB we have a lot of tools. Drive is there, component is there, we connect, and output is coming. Practically, when we implement it, there are so many factors that we don't consider. The temperature, the spurious signals are coming. So when IC is basically heat up, so in simulation that is not getting heat up, but practically it is heat up. So it was not working practically. So theoretically the system was working well. All the waveforms are coming good, everything is good. But in the laboratory, when it was, we were on the basically in the lab, it was not working well. So when I asked my supervisor what is happening, then he said, you just check this IC, it is getting heat up, and you use some basically say some capacitor to connect it to remove these spurious signals and so many things. So unless you work in laboratory practically, it is very difficult to work in the industry. So laboratory, you can't substitute. But of course, e-learning and simulation, it gives and design. It gives a lot of time you to do work out of the laboratory, but then you have to go to laboratory. So this both combined, if you want to give a student the complete content to face the problem in the industry. This I want to say.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ramotarji. May I request Dr. H.D. Charan to speak, please?
Sure. I'll like to respond in terms of e-learning. That's the outside classroom, particularly in 3 ways. One, it will be a value-added course. Whatever being taught in the class, if any student wanted to learn, there is a lot of scope through e-learning. Lot of scope. There is no limit, and that will be value-added. And large number of the good students are doing, and ordinary students like ours, they have to promote their students. They have to bring the student to the various advantages. So started talking of virtual levels. What is impossible? Nothing is impossible. Now situation has made us to learn. So we have started talking of virtual lab. So virtual lab may not be a replacement of the actual lab, but virtual lab may be useful also. So that like again with the addition. Third, now till today, we had never thought of any practical training internship online. Never thought of. At least I never thought of. Other maybe think never thought of. So now since last 15 days, I have started thinking of, and I have collected large number of the materials. Large number of the firms are coming to me. They can provide the online training, online internship. Now that may not be comparable with the usual method of training, offline training, but that will be again a value-added courses. If any student wanted to do it during class hours, during his working hours, and in the evening, so he can go for the internship like this, offline internship, e-internship. So that will be value-added to this. So I think a new turn will come out of this situation, where a student will shift to e-learning with online, with offline training after this every situation become normal. So I think all the 3 ways this will be very, very much useful. Now here again, teacher has got the important role, I think, because to bring the student to the various advantage of the e-learning, this only teacher can. So I think this in 3 ways that will be very much useful. Thank you.
Excellent, Dr. Charan. Thanks for the inputs. May I request Raghu to please respond to this question, please?
Yeah, so Dr. Ravi, to your question about how universities and colleges can better prepare students for being ready for their professional lives, for the industry. I think there are probably 3 parts to this, the way I think about it. Firstly, it's good to appreciate that what the industry wants is changing very rapidly. We are undergoing the 4th industrial revolution, and the kind of technologies that have been coming out are quite quickly changing what the industries need. And many businesses, even before coronavirus, were turning digital, whether they be automotive businesses, manufacturing businesses, financial businesses, and so on. And so an appreciation by higher education to say industry itself is changing quite rapidly as a part of the 4th industrial revolution. And there are many reports that are available to say what are the specific skills that the industry is looking for, whether it be the World Economic Forum, whether it be companies like McKinsey or Deloitte. There are many reports that have been published which say what specifically are the skills of the future. We've published our own thought point of view on this as well. And I think the first point is just an appreciation of the fact that what the industry wants is changing quickly. And then having the flexibility to incorporate that into the curriculum. From a student's point of view, to be learning a particular course, whether online or on campus, but for it not to be counted as a 4-credit course and for it to be only a value-added course makes no sense. I mean, why should a student do that, right? So I think there needs to be enough agility in the relevant, leaders in higher education to say, if this is what the industry wants, this is how we need to update the curriculum. The second piece, of course, like I said, is high quality teaching needs to happen, whether that be online or offline or a combination of both together. And I think the third piece, which I think we are missing to quite a large extent across many colleges and universities in the country, and I went to higher education here as well myself, is along with the hard functional skills, building those skills which will enable career success. And those are topics like communication, those are topics like critical thinking, those are topics like problem solving, those are topics like being able to work well in virtual teams. None of us have worked as much as we are working in virtual teams as we have done in the past. And those are skills that need to be built. I think if we think about these three buckets as how higher education should be thinking about building skills that are ready, that create students who are ready for the workplace, I think all of us in the country will benefit, because education is the pathway to our progress, and that's imperative for us to be able to do.
Thank you, Raghav.
Ravi Gupta, I want to add
yeah.
something.
Please.
Currently, AICT has given freedom to the university that if any student obtain 20 credits more than the usual, he or she may be awarded as an additional degree. Say, for example, a student of computer can have an additional degree of artificial intelligence, he or she can have. Similarly, say, mechanical student can have a robotics. So there is a list, long list. So if he and she earn additional 20 credits, now there are two ways. I am preparing that syllabus for 20 credits for each branch for different degrees. So I have, now I'll float it. Now there is two possibilities. Either he go for those 20 additional credit, either offline or online. So I am pursuing them to go for the online. So once they have an option of the online courses, large number of the courses are available for technicals, then they will have a additional degree. So this is another way of promoting e-learning.
Yes, it's a great idea of AICT.
One thing I think which has been left from the discussion is, and I'm looking at the questions people are raising, is examination system.
Yes.
Can we conduct online exams? And we will have to work over that. Because it's a great worry among the students and among the faculty, among the university administrations, and as a government among us, that how would we be conducting exams? And if the exams are not on time, as Raghav was saying that it has already been decided in the countries outside India that they will not be going for exam for this year. And is it possible here in India? We will have to think over that. And is it possible to conduct exams through online? Because the midterm exams, they have conducted very successfully. Both the BTU and RTU VCs are sitting over here and they have done it. But is it possible to conduct all the exams online? We will have to look into that. And can the copies be evaluated online? So there is still a scope to think about how to go for this online exam, and what will we be doing with the exams if this situation continues. So I think some deliberations over that is also needed. Very important
point, because like if the students are studying online, they can also give exam online. So
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
May I respond?
No,
May I respond?
सर अभी हम लोग इस पे आते हैं, इस वाले सवाल पे आते हैं. अभी एक सवाल और इसमें मैं इसको कर लेता हूँ. तो लास्ट क्वेश्चन ऑफ द पैनल इज, कैन टेक्नोलॉजी अलोन एनेबल डेवलपिंग जॉब रिलेवेंट स्किल्स रिमोटली? अभी जो बात हो रही है कि एजुकेशन की बात हो रही है, सो द क्वेश्चन इज, कैन टेक्नोलॉजी अलोन enable developing job relevant skills remotely?
I think partly it has been discussed by all.
Yeah.
Has discussed about it. Charanji has discussed, and I also have read over that. And if I think I have already given my viewpoints over that.
Yeah. Dr. Ramavatar, you want to address this question?
I think we have already discussed on this point.
So we can then move ahead. Raghav, you want to add something here?
I mean, I think it's safe to say that the answer is no. Technology alone cannot develop students to be ready, to be sent out into the workplace. I think also at the same time to think about this, like I said earlier, as either online or on campus is the other extreme, and the answer to that is no as well. I think we should be thinking about blended modes where both models have a significant way to promote what the students should be learning. I was on a webinar earlier this week, and it was very interesting to hear this very senior gentleman and academician say that for all colleges and universities, the most valuable thing that they have is probably their faculty, and especially the good quality faculty. And it is high time for us to not be thinking about my lecture notes, my PowerPoint presentations
Yes.
alone, but to be thinking about not just my assets, but also about curation. How can I bring courseware from the best of the world to my students? Even today, any faculty member does not write the book that they teach with, right? And so tomorrow we need to be thinking about online as a resource where the faculty member says, I will curate the right kind of on-campus plus online learning, and I will be the mentor to my students who will set them up for success. So if they start thinking about online resources as a resource like they do for a textbook, it just takes the confusion out of the picture.
Yes.
Excellent. So we have a lot of questions here, around like 74 questions, and I was told that I should like select the questions, and I have been like trying to select, and it's a big task here. So if
in fact, I have dealt. Means I have all gone through the questions, and I have given. I think I have dealt all the questions in my whatever I am saying.
Dr. Ramavattar, like any of the questions which are asked, like you want to respond on that, or Dr. Charan or Raghav?
Yeah, basically the question what they are asking, it is around what we have spoken already,
Yes.
some this way or that way. So the main point is everybody is basically in the doubt whether this technology is enough or we have to mix both classroom as well as e-learning. So I think this is the learning is a continuous process of life, I think. So slowly, my teachers are not comfortable with e-learning, but now they are learning, and we ask some experts to check whether they are writing good lectures. Then there is a feedback, and then after that feedback, they are preparing better. So this is learning continuously, but it is a mixed mode. Both is required, classroom as well as e-learning. What I think.
Great. Charanji, you were saying something and I interrupted. So if you can talk about it, please.
I was responding to the question Madam has raised, that how online exam can be possible. That's what.
Yes.
So if you take up that question, then I'll
Yes. Please respond on that issue.
So till now, as far exams are concerned, we have gone only up to test, internal test.
Yeah.
As for interim exams are concerned, we have not touched it. Again, I'm telling you, this is a special situation. We are required to think of in a special manner, not to compare with the ordinary situation. Now, in such a case, there may be three ways of conducting exams. So one, that multiple choice type questions are there. Then again, the student had to go to some center where this exam can be conducted, and that is not allowed. Each and every student have that facility, and if we have the system that there is no copying, mass copying, something like that. Now, second way of examining may be the way we have conducted the test through Google Classroom. That's the open book. So similarly, exams of limited may not be that 3 hours exams. Say exams may be 2 hours. less number of the questions, and students may be allowed time, and question may be set in such a manner that open book is allowed. Then a student can go for it, and then they can submit through Google Classroom, and teacher will be checking. So that method in this special circumstances may be possible.
Okay, that's good.
Very interesting. Yes. So, are there any other points which anyone wants to?
Actually, I just want to tell one thing. What
Yes.
Mr. Charan conveyed.
Yes.
I am very much touched with the NIT because I am from NIT Jaipur. I am professor there, and on this basically last exam, this end-term exam, whether it's open book or not. So there is a daily discussion in the NIT, and every professor asking a different questions. What is the reliability? If the industry will accept it or not accept? What will happen after 4 years, 2 years? The industry may say that your exam was very basically just whether the formality. So we should do it or we should not do it. So really deliberations are there, and it is really very difficult to say today that we should go it or we should not go it. It needs a lot of input.
I do want to mention one point which may not be relevant right away for us in India, but I think it is helpful to know where innovation in technology is going. So on the Coursera platform, today there are 17 fully online degrees. One of these degrees, all of these degrees are from top universities around the world. One of these degrees, as an example, is from the University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League university. And this degree is a master's in computers and information technology. To get into the degree, it's the same admission process as one would go through to be studying at UPenn. And the degree is over 2 years. It's a master's. It's the same curriculum largely. Almost all of it is delivered online, and a large part of it is asynchronous. A very little part of it is live lectures and synchronous as well, just as context. In this particular degree, a master's in computer science from a top university, the exams happen online as well. And there are technologies which are proctoring technologies, which today might be a little expensive, but for a master's from a top university, which is a fully degree awarding program, there are now assessments and exams that happen online. Students come from around the world, and they might be in any part of the world. The university is in the US, but the student might be in India, and they are able to take fully online exams. This is still expensive as technology, and it may not be applicable for us to say that this will be applicable right away for us across colleges and institutions in India. But I just wanted to share that that's what is already happening, and at some stage, we will have a lot of that accessible to us as well at a very affordable price point.
So,
Sir, I would like to tell one point.
Yes.
It's really appreciable what conveyed. The IIT, the student is very intelligent. Very well. So in my country, even if I can compare IIT and I compare my one college in the Jhala or somewhere else, my student is coming the 45% or 40% attendance. You can't compare both at one platform. This is the real situation. So we have to think about those colleges, and then we have to think what technology, how it will work. That's very, very important. The practical point. But
very fair point.
I want to respond to the Raghav about online degree.
Please.
Hello. So Raghav rightly told that
Yes.
there is degrees are available through online, everything online, exams are online, course content is online. Even here in our system also, that AICT has told that if any student go for a online MOOC courses, 20 credits, they will be awarded honors. That is there. So examination is there, but this only for a few people. For the mass, we cannot have this system. Again, for a pure degree, our culture is different. I'm citing the example. One teacher has this type of master degree online from outside, and we had been checking his biodata in one of the colleges, and we told him from where you have this degree, what the authenticity of degree. ultimately authority finally decided that this online mode of degree, having online mode of degree is not eligible to be a teacher. So in our system, there are a lot of complexities are there. So that possibility is there, but that remote possibility cannot be applied to the large number of students, which we are dealing thousands of students.
Great. So if we all agree, like we can conclude the session here, and may I request Dr. Shuchi Sharma to give some concluding remarks.
I want to tell one thing, one point,
Okay.
only 1 minute.
Please. No
Out
problem.
of this, during Corona and this online system, I learned one thing, honestly learned one thing, that we are having a large number of conferences, seminar, faculty development program, and we invest a lot of things for organizing it. And you, Mr. Ravi Gupta, you are always doing it. Last time you had done it, Jaipur. A lot of efforts are being done. Now, through this system, it can also possible. I have seen this, I have done it. For the example, I am also proposing similar for value education in my teachers. So I think in future, this type of seminar, conferences, faculty development program should be encouraged. So that will save a lot of resources. At the same time, it will be very much useful. Because in this terms today we are sitting, we are nothing much resources are being utilized. So this option will be very much useful to all of us.
So, Dr. Charan, your suggestion is very, very valuable, and in the month of May, actually, we are going to organize a virtual higher education conference, and we will invite you there soon.
Thank you, sir. Every day I'm as a panelist for human value passenger at the 4 different corners of India. One is in the Himachal University, another in the Gujarat University, another in the JNTU. We are conducting 5 days workshop on human values. So last at least minimum 200 plus teachers are attending, and that too on the level of principal, director, deans.
Right, great. Very nice. So may I request Dr. Shuchi Sharma to give concluding remarks for this session.
I am thankful to ELITS, in fact, and all the panelists here, Dr. Charan, Dr. Ari Gupta ji, and Raghav Gupta ji, MD, Coursera. It was really a very enlightening and enriching webinar. It was, in fact, we discussed all our problems related to e-learning. Even we are new into it, and we have learned a lot from the inputs Raghav has given us, and the two our VCs who really are doing something in field in this direction. And I've got a lot of ideas from them, and I've come across with the real problems which are coming up in delivering these services. I've got a lot of questions also from so many people here, and many comments and many suggestions. I would look into it when I am free from this webinar, and it will be of great help in policy formulation, in taking important decisions in the interest of the students, of the state, in the interest of the faculty, in the interest of the education system as a whole. And I am again very, very much thankful to ELITS Media that you gave us a opportunity to interact in such a I got really good feedback from all the directions.
Raghav, your concluding remarks, please.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I mean, it's just been a real pleasure listening to everybody and learning a lot and seeing the kind of questions that are coming. There's clearly a lot of work for all of us to do to get education back fully online. And Coursera is trying to do what we can to support this disruption that has happened. I do want to remind everybody, Coursera for Campus is available for free till the end of July. So please do make use of that. Like I said at the start, 1,500 colleges and universities have already done that in India, but there are 50,000 colleges in our country, and we want to make sure that we can reach as many as we can. So please do, the URL is coursera.org/coronavirus, and it's very easy to find. There's a simple form to be filled, and we will make this live within 3-4 days of the form being filled up. So please do make use of that.
Fantastic. So I thank all the panelists on behalf of Digital Learning Magazine and ILETS for joining us here. I want to thank all the audience for great questions and a lot of inputs on the chats. And if you all liked this session, I will request you to please like and share it on the Facebook so that a lot more people benefit from the great discussions we had here. And I will also inform all the audience that you can visit the website iletsonline.com/webinar and look at more webinars daily. Yeah, and do a lot of learning from it. And with this, I thank each of you again, and namaskar, and thank you to each of you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Namaskar,
Thank
Ravi
you.
Gupta ji. I expect from you some online internship module to be provided
Yes.
to.
So
Yes, yes. Yes,
Karthik
that is
will
needed.
speak to you on this. Yes.
So I need your email address or ask Karthik to contact in this.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
It will happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you all.